Hello, everybody. It's Mr. David with this week's reading lessons, which on our lesson plan that you see on the screen in front of you is actually labeled week 2, but it's actually for week 4, counting in everything else that we had going on. Week 5, sorry, for everything else we had going on, because there were 3 last week, plus these 2, which equals 5. But on here, it's labeled week 2. So, last week, we did gazpacho soup, the horses of Chiconateague, and we talked and learned a little bit about our government and the United States Constitution. This week, we are going to address some other things, kind of social studies mixed in here too. It's kind of all infused in all 3 of these this time. The first story we're going to talk about, and I'm going to do some with you, is A Paper Dragon Fairy Tale, which is a fairy tale. Kind of a fun story. I enjoyed it. The next 2 kind of tie together. This one's Rosa Parks, and you may remember Rosa Parks is the woman who got arrested for not giving up her seat on the bus to a white man. She was a black woman during segregation and was put in jail for that, and that caused Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to come and help her, and they started working for civil rights, and she was one of the people early in that movement. The second one is also about the civil rights movement. It's called Walking Tall, and it's about kids who went to schools that became integrated in the South in the 1960s and sometimes late 50s in some cases. At that time, in the South, schools were segregated, which means kids that were white went to one school, and kids who were black, or they called them colored at that time, went to a different school. And this was declared unconstitutional, and that schools needed to integrate or mix, like our school is in Adams Friendship, and every school is in the United States now. And these are about the first kids that were integrated from a black school into a white school, and some of their experiences that they had being the first people to do this. So these kind of tie together. They're both about the civil rights movement. This one isn't so much, but it's a cool story. So I'm going to use some examples with this one, and then I'll go through these with you on what you need to do in this video. So our objective today is to be clear on what we need to do on all 3 of these. And yes, you need to do all 3 stories. It's not choose one. You do all 3 for this week. You don't have to do all of them on the sheet, but you do these 3 during this week. And this lesson is going to kind of clear that up. So, without any further ado, let's get ready to get started with our objective, which is understanding what to do on these assignments. You will definitely need a pencil to do this assignment, and you'll obviously need your packet with your papers. An optional thing you may want is a yellow crayon or a highlighter, because you may decide that there's something in there that's an important note and you don't want to keep searching for it, so if you mark it, you can find it. If you don't have a highlighter, you can always use your pencil and mark something with underlining too. Just something to mark with. Okay? All right, so our first article today is called The Paper Dragon Fairy Tale. Now, we know a little bit about fairy tales. We've talked about them. It's a genre in reading. And this comes from the same packet and same style of stuff as last week, where you're going to have to answer some questions, but not only answer that, you have to tell me how confident you are in your answer, just like last week. So I'm not going to go through that too much, because if you're confused about that, look at last week's literacy video and I explain how to do that, but I'm going to highlight it and show it to you. So this is The Paper Dragon Fairy Tale. I'm going to read this one to you, and then we're going to do some of the questions together to be sure we understand it. You can work along with me on this, and then there will be 2 more articles after. The second one, Rosa Parks, is the same format as this one, and the third one's a different format, and I'll go over what to do on that one as well. So, this is called The Paper Dragon Fairy Tale. Once upon a time, that's always at the beginning of a fairy tale, on a wall in a little house in a country far away, there hung a beautiful paper dragon. It was carefully folded and looked almost lifelike. The dragon was painted the colors of the rainbow, with its tail spread wide like the tail of a peacock. Many years went by, and the people who lived in the house enjoyed the picture of the colorful dragon. People who came to visit the house stopped to see the brightly colored dragon, but no one ever asked about where it had come from. A couple of times, someone took it down from the wall, only to put it on another wall in the little house, and arrange the tail slightly differently. Doing this, they felt a feeling of energy and of life. Something about holding the paper dragon made them feel free. Once a stranger on his journey passed by the house and happened to see the beautiful dragon hanging on the wall. Struck by its beauty, he stared closely at the dragon. Without asking permission, he lifted down the dragon from the wall. He hung it over his arm and went out into the yard. With skilled fingers, he tied a string around the dragon's body and quickly went to an open place. As a breeze began, the stranger carefully let out the string and ran it into the wind. Up the dragon lifted into the air and soared high above like a kite. The dragon seemed to be pulling higher, higher in the air, almost though it was like it was flying. The people who lived in the house came outside to watch the man with the dragon. They were surprised to see their beautiful paper dragon flying above them, brightly colored and with his long tail flowing behind it. They began to think that maybe there was something about this dragon they had not noticed before. Okay, we're in the last paragraph. As the wind blew, the dragon happily danced in the air above. Without warning, the string broke, and the dragon flew higher and further away from them. The people below squinted as they looked up at the brightly colored dragon, and suddenly the little paper dragon began growing. Its paper wings stretched wide and long. Its paper body began to change, and the small creature flew higher and higher. The people below looked in amazement as the dragon came to life and flew away. Turning to them, the stranger said, "Some things are just meant to be free." Interesting fairy tale. I was kind of picturing that in my head, a paper dragon like a kite, because I've seen some of those and they're pretty cool. So we're going to use the knowledge we have and what we saw happen in here. And there's not a lot to highlight in this story. It kind of just happened in order. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end, so I kind of know where to look for stuff. But I do want to show you some stuff about these questions. So the questions have a question, obviously, and 4 choices that you can choose. And you're going to circle the letter of the one that you think is the best answer. And sometimes, remember, there isn't a real clear-cut best answer. You have to be very careful about that. And then on the bottom is this little thing right here, where they ask you how confident you are in your answer. And then there's a line provided from 0%, which is not confident at all, to 100% that you're fully confident. You have to put an X on that line, remember, or a check or a line or some kind of mark to show me where you are. Only one mark. You can't put 2. You can only put 1 to show where you are. So let's try this. How did the dragon end up outside flying in the air? Okay, so how did it get out there? Now, it is a fairy tale, so there's a lot of possibilities, but we did read the story, so we should know. A, the people who lived in the house took it outside. Well, some people took it outside, but was it the people who lived in the house? No. If you remember, in the middle of the story, it said there was a stranger who came, and he did that. So this answer is not correct. You can cross it off if you want. The dragon was so lifelike that it flew out the window. Well, that could happen in a fairy tale, but it didn't happen in this one, so that's not the answer. C, the stranger took it outside and flew it like a kite. Now, that did happen, and it is the right person. But I'm not just going to mark that and go on and say, oh, that has to be it. I should always check all 4 choices to be sure that this one isn't better right here. Okay? So let's see. D, a breeze blew the dragon out the window. No, that didn't happen. So our first guess, C, was correct. Now, how confident are we in this answer that we just wrote? I'm feeling very confident in the answer because I know that happened, because I read the story, I saw it happen, I saw the people do it, or the stranger do this up here in the middle of the story. In paragraph 3, actually, is all about that. Paragraph 3 is about a stranger taking it outside and flying it like a kite. So I'm very confident in this answer. In fact, I'm 100% confident. So I'm going to put my mark right down there at the end because I am very confident in that answer. All right, there's more questions on the back. Here we go. Number 2, the word amazement in this story is used in the story. It means what? Well, I know what the word amazement means, and you probably do too. You've been amazed by something before, but what does it mean in the story? Okay, well, we might need to go back and look just to be safe that we find it. So I'm going to scan through the story and see if we can find any amazement here. And I know that happened somewhere at the end. Oh, here it is. I just found it. At the end of the story. Right here is the word amazement. So let's just read that for some context. The people below looked in amazement as the dragon came to life and flew away. Oh, so something amazing happened. That's why they're amazed, and it wasn't something they see every day, so it's pretty surprising. Let's see. A, wonder and surprise. I like that answer, but I'm not just going to mark A and go on. I'm going to check to be sure. Anger and shock? Well, no, they weren't mad at the guy at all, so no. Confused and upset? Maybe confused, but they weren't upset. Content and happy? I don't think they were happy at that point. It was more like, whoa. So I think our first answer was good. Wonder and surprise. Now, how confident am I in that answer? Well, I'm not as confident as before because it didn't clearly just say it, but I'm pretty confident. I'm going to go right about there. You mark where you think you are with that. Number 3, why would it be, or what would be another good title for this passage? How to make a paper dragon. Well, did they make one? No. The paper dragon flies free. Ooh, that happened. That's pretty good. The history of the paper dragon. No, we don't know its history. We don't know where it came from. The stranger and the dragon. Oh, both of those are good answers. The Stranger and the Dragon is kind of a mysterious title about what happened, and it flies free. I'm going to go with flies free, although I think you could make a case for either one, B or D. But I think that's the main idea, is that this dragon gets freed. I know the stranger is there, but he's not as important maybe as the dragon, because the whole story is about the dragon. Stranger's in half of it. So I'm going to go with B. Now, I'm not 100% sure about this because this is a good answer too, so I'm going to go pretty close to the middle because, if somebody made a good case to me about that one, I probably could go with that too. So that's where I'm going to mark that one. Number 4, why did the stranger take the paper dragon outside without permission? He did do that. A, he was going to show it to a friend. Well, no, he's a stranger. He doesn't have any friends here yet. He did not think the family would mind. Well, maybe. I don't know that for sure, though. He wanted to steal the dragon from the family. I don't think he was trying to steal it because the family was standing there with him when he did it. He thought the dragon was special and needed to be free. Oh, wait, he said that right at the very end. Some things are just meant to be free. He said that. Yeah, I'm thinking that's the best answer, so I'm going to mark that. How confident am I in that answer? Pretty confident, not 100%, because I don't know about B for sure, but I'm pretty close to confident. I'm going to mark there on that one. How did the people feel after holding the paper dragon? Oh, remember when people touched it, things happened? And I don't remember exactly what they said. I know that was at the beginning of the story, so I'm going to go back and look near the beginning and find out where people were doing that. Okay, so I'm scanning. I'm not reading a lot. Oh, here it is. Yep. Sometimes they moved it in the house, arranged the tail slightly and differently. Doing this, they felt energy and life. Something about holding the dragon made them feel free. That's called foreshadowing. This word right here, this is foreshadowing what's going to happen to the dragon later in the story. That's called foreshadowing, a very important element. Anyway, we know what they're doing now, so let's go have a look. So when people moved the dragon, A, they were tired for lifting the dragon. No, they definitely didn't feel tired, so that's wrong. Energized and alive? Yep, that was a good one, but I want to just check to be sure. Shocked and amazed? That's an okay answer, but I like B better. Sad, because they had to put it back. Never said that. So A and D, out of the question. So if I'm using a cross-off tool, I would take care of A and D, and it's these two, and I said I liked B better, so I'm going with B. How confident am I in that answer? Almost completely, because they talked about feeling energy and feeling alive, and that's almost exactly what it said, so I'm going to go pretty close to the end on that one. All right, on the bottom it says, on a scale between 1 and 10, with 1 being low and 10 being high, it doesn't say that, they forgot the word again, high, how well do you like this passage? This is like when we rate a book. 0 is the worst, 1 is that book was awful, and 10 means it was the most awesome book I ever read. I liked this story. This is an opinion, so you don't have to mark the same number I do if you're following along. You might go higher or lower than me. Now, it's not the best fairy tale I've ever heard, but certainly not the worst, and it's better than 5 or 6 in the average. I'm going to give it an 8. I think it's pretty good. I enjoyed it. I was able to picture it. It was short enough that I was able to keep it all in my brain, and I was pretty good at answering the questions. I liked it. Imagery and prediction. Draw what you think the dragon looked like from changed from a wall hanging to a real dragon. Write a paragraph telling what you think happens to the dragon after it becomes real and starts to fly. Now, since we have a separate writing section, you do not have to write a paragraph, but I do want you to write a sentence about it. What do you think happened to the dragon when it just started to fly? Here's what I was thinking. I think the dragon went to another family. And became paper. Again. I think the dragon went to another family and became paper again. Like it travels around to help teach people about freedom. That's what I think. Now, does that mean that I'm right? No. That's just what I think. And I think this dragon is kind of cool. I'm going to draw a picture of it over here on the side because I think it was one of these, like, imagining a Chinese dragon with the long teeth and kind of the long, and it has like a fan here, and then it's kind of those long dragons. Looks kind of snake-like. I'm picturing, like, I see Chinese dragons at the Chinese New Year and stuff. Here's its wings. It has little claws, kind of like this. Put some scales on them. Yeah, get more. Yeah, there we go. I like that. Little bigger nose. There we go. Okay, so that's kind of what I think the dragon looks like. I could color this if I wanted to. But you could fit your response right on this paper. You could draw a picture of your dragon over here. If you need more room, attach a piece of scrap paper by all means. And you only need to write a sentence here, not a paragraph, because we're doing a lot of writing in our social studies project, so I'm okay with that. All right, so that's the first one. So if you followed along with me, guess what? You're already a third done. You have Paper Dragon Fairy Tale completely done. Now let me show you the other two pieces and give you some hints about what you need to do. I'm not going to read them to you. This is reading class after all. And I'm not going to tell you much. I'm just going to give you a couple hints. So there's a story about Rosa Parks here. It goes in the order of her life. We call that... You don't have to write this down. I'm just writing it so you remember it. It's called chronological. It's like a clock. It follows her life. Okay, chronological. That C didn't turn. There we go. Chronological. It follows her life from the beginning till the end. Okay, and you can see here it says she was born, and at the end it says she died at age 92. She lived a long life. All right. So after you read this, you're going to pick your question like we did and mark how confident you are. And there are 5 questions. Okay, same thing. On the bottom, you're going to rate it 1 to 10. What did you think of the passage? You may rate it higher or lower than the Paper Dragon. We all have different preferences in what we read. And this time, we're going to make an inference. In your own words, how did Rosa Parks make a significant impact on the civil rights movement? Support your answer with facts from the passage. This one, you're going to need to get yourself another piece of paper because you're probably going to have to write 2 or 3 sentences because you're going to want to find 2 or 3 things that prove this point. And you can't fit that down here or on the side. So on that one, you're going to need to probably get a piece of lined paper out of that loose leaf paper I gave you and start writing that answer down of what you think. Remember, you have to support with what you think. So here's what I would do, knowing that ahead of time. I would use a highlighter or my pencil or a pen or something that could mark this. And when you see something that shows she helped change this or she affected the movement, I'd highlight it. When you get 2 or 3, you've got them. Then you can just use them in your writing when you write that answer of probably a short paragraph at the most. Doesn't have to be very long. Okay, and again, you can hand this in with this when you hand this in at the next drop-off date. All right, that's our second article, Rosa Parks. Now on to our third article and final article for this week. It's called Walking Tall. Okay, and the first part is about a little girl named Ruby Bridges, sorry. This is Ruby right here. And these are 3 police officers that are escorting her into this school that is now integrated, that had just kids that were white before. And now she's a black girl, and she has got integrated and allowed to go to this school. It is really amazing if you read up here when these marshals are taking her in from the federal court and read about this to see what's happening. It's pretty amazing if you can picture what's happening. Down below, it talks about how she reacts to that. And then it talks about what kind of happens after that. And then down here, which is neat, this is Ruby later on and her teacher. And, of course, she grew up out here. And it talks about that. And she actually did an interview to this group of people. And you can read about what she had to say about it as she grew up and looked back on this experience. If you could imagine that. Going into a school where a lot of people don't want you there. But it's a better opportunity for you. And it's the law that you can go there. How hard that would have had to have been. Okay, on the back, it'll talk more about stuff she did, and then it talks about some people that went to Little Rock. Another integration story. Not Ruby Bridges, but another story. And it finishes it up, and here's how she made history. Okay, and then the second article, there's 2 articles. This one we've done a lot of work about. This is about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who we heard about helping Rosa Parks earlier. This is about his life. We know a lot about this because we studied it in 3rd grade and partially in 4th grade, because around January 19th or so is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and we always do something with that. So this will be kind of a review, but you'll want to read through it to be sure, okay? And you'll see it goes to the end, and it even has a timeline of his life, chronologically ordered, just like the Rosa Parks article. These are the words you're going to want to pay attention to when you're reading it because they're bolded. Civil rights and segregated. And you'll want to be sure you understand what those mean. And by reading this paragraph, and the one below it, probably all three, that will give you that information. Well, segregated, I see there's context, means separated. Civil rights is what the whole thing's about. Now, when you're done, you're going to have some articles you just read the articles. You're going to have some questions to answer. Honoring Dr. King is for question 1 and 2. What was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream, according to his famous speech, which is called I Have a Dream, which we listened to in class, some of it. A legacy is something valuable left by a person when he or she dies. What is Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy? In other words, how is the world different because of the things that he did? The article you read first is called Walking Tall, but it's used second. This talks about Ruby Bridge was the first African American to do what? What did she do? She had to go somewhere. We read about that. Number 4, civil rights are the rights of citizens to be treated equally. How have both Ruby Bridge's actions supported civil rights? Discuss her actions as a child and an adult. Remember, she was in there as a kid, and then later she did an interview as an adult. So you probably need 2 sentences there. The last 2 sentences, questions, you're going to be using both articles, Honoring King and Walking Tall, to answer. And this one says, number 5, what did both Martin Luther King Jr. and Ruby Bridges believe in and support? Use information from both articles to support your answer. How do these 2 people, they work together? They didn't really ever work right together in the same area, but they worked together for the same cause. How do they do that? Number 6, think about what Honoring King tells you about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy. What might Ruby Bridges' legacy be? Support your answer from one or both articles. So she's still living, he is not. And what would her legacy be from what she's doing now? You're predicting. Okay? You're going to get some information from the article to form your prediction, but you're going to predict. Of course, along with this, you should be reading every day, too, at home. I hope you have a good book to read, or you have some books at home. And I understand if the library closed and you can't get books from school, that's kind of hard. But you should be trying to read at home as well. And the good guideline is an hour a day. Now, you can count this for some of it, of course, but this may not take you an hour. And you may only be doing this 1 or 2 days. But the other days, you should be reading about an hour a day in total with your schoolwork and your other reading. I don't give you a reading log at this point. You can write it down and log it if you want, but I can't check it or verify it, and so you should be doing that, and it only helps you. The more you read and the more you keep that stamina up we worked on, the better off you'll be when you go to middle school. So if you have any questions on this set of lessons this week, you can certainly let me know, and we can talk about these. This one's all done. This one should be easy, but these 2, if you need help, I can help you during a meeting or meet with you or message you or whatever. Let me know. Next week we'll be doing these, and I'm intrigued by this title, The Monster in the Barn. Ooh. Well, anyway, go ahead and have a good time with this, and I'm sure you'll enjoy reading this, and that they're really good information. So, good luck reading, happy answering, and let's see some cool answers written out in complete sentences. All right, everybody, take care. Talk to you later. Bye.